to Afrifama. We were supposed to go live 10 minutes ago, but here we are. So as usual, I'm going to check few things that they are okay in terms of the sound check. Meanwhile, let me know where you're watching from. If you have any question for me today, and if it's you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much. You're the real OG, and it's good to see you here. So for almost 1 week now, we have been building a very interesting case, and that is in business planning session. And I think today we are almost towards the very end of business planning, and that is where on what we call the startup capital, which for most people can be a very big problem if it's not well addressed or if it's not well aligned. But as a startup entrepreneur who you have been working diligently writing your business plan, then this is also a very key thing that you need to address, because if you don't address it, then you are very unsure what's the next step for you. In case you're wondering what we do here, ideally, we discuss anything entrepreneurial, whereby we have all started from the idea stage before now pivoting to the business planning session, which hopefully by today we should be putting that to an end. And then from next week, we go to the most exciting topics. And this is whereby most people who have existing businesses, they have always been asking, how do you grow a business? And also now for this particular person who has been planning this particular business plan, and now they want to execute, they want to implement the business idea itself, then it's also now for them to get to know, how do you implement it? How do you grow that small operation from where it is today to something big? Because the paramount for any business person, for any startup entrepreneur, it's to start small and ultimately to be able to grow. So let me know where you're watching from. And as usual, I'll be using this startup manual kit. This is written by ILO, and there is a team of experts from across the world, but they have majored their case studies within entire Africa, not just sub-Saharan Africa. And again, we'll also be tying it down to my own experience as an entrepreneur building Afrifama, a very interesting or an exciting startup in the poultry ecosystem here in Kenya. So in case you're wondering where I am, my name is Njuguna Hilary. I'm an entrepreneur based here in Kenya, which is actually one of countries in East Africa. So let me know where you're watching from. And as usual, we say, don't feel shy. Feel free to introduce yourself. And of course, if you have any question, don't hesitate to let me know. It's good to see you, Miso, joining the chat. And yet again, it's very interesting to have you as a moderator for today. So one thing you have to know for sure, and this is again based on the ILO, it's absolutely necessary that you know how much startup capital you need and where you'll get it before you start setting your business. So you'll need startup capital, obviously, for the following reason. And one of them is on capital investment, which will be speaking what does capital investment entail. And lastly, again, is on working capital. Because ideally, if you are not careful with able to specify this kind of capital, you'll be able to run it. I think yesterday we were talking about costing and financial planning, and we mentioned if you're not very careful with the whole planning session, then you will lose along the way. So we need to get it. I mean, I can see Robert joining in the live. Thank you so much. Yeah, sasa poa sana. So good to have you. If you have any question for us in terms of required startup capital and where to get, obviously, this kind of startup capital, stick around. You'll be able to get it along. So ILO goes to say, what capital investment do you need? Obviously, as an entrepreneur, this is a question you get to ask yourself. And remember, you've been writing the business plan with me, or I'll just assume you have actually written a business plan and you want to implement your idea. Or in another scenario is you have a business and you want to expand your business. So ideally that we might not call it as a startup capital, but rather than expansion capital. So, but for someone who is starting their business, they get to ask yourself. So one thing you need to know is that a capital investment is the purchase of the assets of the business. And ideally, this is the most expensive and lasts for a very long time. So capital investment can be divided into the following categories. One is on business premises and two is on equipment. So when it comes to business, let me just be able to put this so I don't type. When it comes to business premises, obviously, unless you're in a service industry, most of us, we tend to have physical locations, which ideally is where we want to set up our businesses. And even if it's a service business, still sometimes they find it okay to have an office space. But for someone in manufacturing sector or even resales of goods, then premises is one of the key things you need to consider. And when you're thinking around it, one thing you need to know is one is the size of premises you're looking for. For example, here, what we do is one of our business units is in feeds manufacturing. So for us, we'll need, or what we have is a small warehouse. And basically, this is whereby we have to put the machineries which we use for animal feeds processing. We also need to have a small space to store the raw materials that comes in from where we purchase them. And obviously, lastly, this is the finished product. So the same case with you, your need might differ from what ourselves we do, but you need to know one, the size. Because the size, it's again going to determine how much capital are you going to put based on it. The smaller the size, the lesser the capital. The bigger the size in terms of bigger warehouses, the much more tight. Then the next question is the ability of expansion. So once you implement this business idea, so how do you see your business growing in the next 1 year, 2 years, or even 3 years? Will you need more space? Will you need more room? And the more you define that in your business plan, the better for you, because you'll realize you're planning again for the startup capital that you need. Because if you don't plan it and along the way you decide to expand or you decide to go big and you don't have it, then you'll see what happened. Like in the other business we talked about, ideally you collapse. There is no working capital, which again is also a form of startup capital we are going to be looking on. And then lastly is in terms of the specific layout. And as I said, this differs from every business to every business. So then the next thing ILO says is when you know what sort of premises you are required, then you'll need then the following to decide. One, do you need to build the premises or do you need to buy? And lastly, which is also the easiest option for most of us, which we do, is leasing. And again, this is all going into the same. And one thing you need to know is when it comes to building or buying your own property, Well, it's the best option of your business, but its requirement is definitely very high. It tends to tie down a lot of startup capital because you have to put in a lot of investment on the same. While leasing, or what we call renting, they're going to say renting the business premises need less capital than building or buying. It's more flexible because it is easier to change the location of your business if you're renting. But it's not secure as owning your own property. So what happened, like for us here, when we got started, even now, we did not build our office space. We did not build the warehouse we are in. Other than for the other business, which we are doing animal production, which we had to build. We decided to go for this model because if you compare the amount of investment you're putting in at that particular time, then you go for the easiest. Because again, as we said, if you decide to build or start from the scratch, the more expensive startup capital for you it is. But if you go for the lesser, the easier one. So those are the things. And obviously, for someone who don't need that, there is another option of running your business from home. So obviously, this is the most cheapest option. It's a good way to start until your business is successful. But then, this is the gist. It becomes again very hard to separate your family, which is back at home, or farm affairs, as well as business. So if you are not careful, this can always merge in between. So you have to do one in your business plan, try to illustrate when it comes to this particular product, you are going to go for which one and why are you going. And the last bit is to determine how much is it going to cost you. I hope that's making sense in terms of capital investment is concerned and for business premises. The next bit is on equipment. So buying equipment may require a large amount of capital investment when you start up the business. So instead of buying equipment, you can sometimes lease for a specific period. You would also make monthly payment for the duration of the lease. You should compare the cost and benefit of asset loans that may be needed to buy. So now let's assume your business needs to process, needs to manufacture, or make something. So ideally, you'll need a machinery for this. So what do you do again? It's the same option as we started with premises. You can choose to start with a brand new toy, which is a machine, or at the same time, you can choose to either lease. Obviously, from where I come from, which is Kenyan market, we really don't have a bigger option unless you're in agricultural field. For example, if you have a farm, then and you need to do tilling and land hallowing, then you don't necessarily need to buy a tractor. So what I've seen people do is they lease that kind of equipment from someone who have it. But other business, this is a limited and this becomes hard. Some of the tools, some of the machines you need, you don't have an option of leasing. The only option you have is to buy. So, but before you got started, when you're planning your business, you need to see, do you lease, do you buy? Or is there any other form of financing that is a loan financing whereby you can get the equipment and then you can be able to pay into monthly payments? So that again is going to determine how much again capital you're going to need. Then the last bit, and this is what we call the most important capital you need after you've set the whole infrastructure. And when I mean for infrastructure, it goes beyond the locations, goes beyond the machineries. You'll be even talking if you have an office, upfitting of that office, what you need to be using, small equipment here and there. If you have done all that, the next bit of capital you need It's working capital. So what is working capital? I'll be interested to know. Let me see what you guys are talking about here. I see Drippy254 here for the knowledge. Yeah, thank you so much, brother. Good to see you. And hopefully you'll find today's session good. I know you have a very good business in terms of music production and processing. That's why it's always interesting when you find people sometimes in some of these kind of lives, and they have businesses. So it's good to see you, and hopefully at the very end you'll be able to get the knowledge and the insight you can. So meanwhile, I'm interested to know, for anyone who is here and watching, what are their thoughts into startup capital? What are their thoughts and how do they go about? And for those people who have started businesses before, did they classify their capital they needed, or they just, in terms of the business planning, they went ahead and just started it? I'll be very interested to know that. Let me know in comment section before. Meanwhile, we'll be going for the working capital. Still, I'll be interested to know if anyone here has an interesting perspective of what working capital it is, and when they started their business, or when you did start the business, did you know exactly the the working capital that you needed? And as usual, if you're joining for the first time, I'm using this manual. This is a ILO SOIB manual. It tends to put us into more of a controlled environment. I know, let alone once we go deep into IYB, this is improving your own business. We will tend to really go much on personal experiences more than the book itself. But I still believe books also play some roles in what we're doing. But I also love the option whereby we don't base it just on the theoretical aspect. We base it based on what we do, what can we do, and again, what are our own learnings from the business. So I see, Mr. You're saying working capital is the capital of a business which is used in its day-to-day trading operation minus the current liability. Those are very big terms, when you start talking about the current asset, current liabilities. For the first person who might not have gone to a business class, I'll be saying, that's very new. But thank you so much for those insights. But technically, working capital, it's in layman's language, it's what your business needs to run its operation smoothly from the very first day you start to the very last day you close your books for the year. So an ILO says, into its deeper essence, is working capital is the money you need to pay for the expenses generated when your business started operate production. So ideally, what you're going to notice is every day, even as today, when we came here, there is an expense which has been incurred. When someone comes to run our factory, or when someone goes to the farm, there is an expense. When you're going to send for your cargo, when you're going to send for your product, there is an expense. When you buy raw materials, money is going up. So in a layman's language, I would say the money going out your business to keep you afloat, or to make those operations smooth and running. So what you need to know is, and they go further by saying, some business will need enough working capital to cover all costs for a few months or even a year or more. You must estimate how long it will take before your business receive sufficient revenues to cover your ongoing expenses. Plan to keep bit more working capital than you think you need. Now, story time, guys. You might think if you start your business today, you're going to have enough money by next month. In most cases, that's not true, because as we are going to see in terms of working capital is concerned, you'll tend to spend more money than more money is coming in for a number of months. Typically because most of this goes to key operations, which are very crucial for your business to be successful. For you, you need to be very careful with this one. And in most cases, the ILO is actually suggesting you need to have extra working capital than what you have estimated. And the number thing is they're also mentioning is, and this goes beyond normal knowledge. Before you start your business, you need to do proper proper working capital estimation beforehand. You need to sit down. Yesterday, I remember saying how mental this whole experience is. You still need to go beyond that. You need to sit down, plan diligently. And how do you do that? This is why we've been writing the business plan the whole day before. We started by saying, or rather talking about costing. This is the reason we talked about financial planning. This is the reason we talked about the costing. Why? Because how do you plan, or how do you know how much money do your business needs to run if you don't know the operations needed, if you don't know the team of experts needed, if you don't know the talents you need to bring into your business? So technically, you need, and I'll still insist, you need to do a proper business plan session whereby you are able to map out from the ideation stage, whereby you get to explain A, B, C, D. This is my business idea. You need to move beyond that. And you need now to know, what will it take for me to execute this business from this stage to this stage? And you do further research to determine how much is it going to cost from this to this. That's the only way you are going to know about your working capital. Otherwise, if you wake up today and say you're going, for example, into animal feeds business and you need this X amount, the reality is you'll be out of business in the next 1 week or 1 month. Why? You did not take time, because you ran out of the money. Because every time you'll be going into something and you realize, oh, I need money for this. I need money for this. And if you never plan for that, then you didn't have a proper estimate for your business. This is why I keep saying this again. Business planning can never be done by someone else. An entrepreneur needs to do their business plan. They need to do it because that's the only way an entrepreneur is going to understand the business's processes and the business's needs. So in that case, you ask yourself, how much what different kind of working capital do you need? So obviously we have the stock for the raw materials, that is eventually goods production. For promotional activities, we did talk about the marketing plan, and I remember when we were doing that marketing plan, we mentioned you map out what is most important for you, and you also do a budget for that. So for days while you're doing your working capital need, you literally not start from zero, but you'll go to your marketing plan and say, okay, for promotional activities, how much did I plan for this? And then you have your data. In terms of the salaries, in terms of the rent, in terms of the insurance, I think for organizational plan and people, we talked into the details. You even by now, you know the kind of experts, the kind of talents you need for your business, and you even know how much is it going to cost you to bring that talent. So when you're going to be working out on your working capital, then you only just need to go and verify this is what I'll need. So you can be able to have for a few months how much will you need for the salaries, for the rent, for even for other purchases, depending, because I mean, one, my business, Mr. business, Drippy's business, or Robert business, they're different. So it's upon you to know about that. Now, interesting. We'll be able to look at one of the case study, and that is was on city garbage of Cyprus, a case study we've been using. But before we go into it now, when we talk about startup capital, it's now for you to be able to do what is the capital investment and the working capital investment needed. And we say you go step by step and you combine those both. By doing that, at the end of the day, you're going to know exactly how much money do you need to start your business idea. How much money do you need to expand your business? I don't even making sense to you guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Good to see you, Mr. You're saying working capital. Yeah, we talked about that, and in terms of assets as well as liabilities. Don't shy off, guys. Let me know what you think in terms of, did you do the same for your business? Give me an honest opinion. Or if you didn't do, then what happened? It doesn't need for us to say we did the same thing. So I'll give my own opinion later on for Afrifama case and say, okay, we did it or we didn't do it. And now going forward, this is what we do. Because I still believe entrepreneurship, sometimes you don't have all the answers. Sometimes it's more of a defining journey whereby you find yourself and you tend to grow from strength to strength. So sometimes you might not do things in the right place in the first time, but it's upon you as an entrepreneur, as you learn along the way, can you adapt to those few things that you're building? Let me know your thoughts. I need a bit of water break for just a moment. Let me know what you think, guys. Don't be shy off now. It's very interesting. Sometimes one of my friends was telling me the other day, when she comes off online, she is in here, very interested to learn, but she's too scared to ask a question. Don't be scared. As I said, I know most of these cases for business, they tend to be very serious, but that's the only way to learn. So don't feel shy. We definitely like questions. So don't feel shy. Don't feel bad. That's the only. For me, I think most of the things that I have learned, they are all based on my inquisitive nature. So sometimes I can go to any sessions for either for learning or even for mentorship, because even myself, I also sit down. There are people who have more knowledge, who have more expertise than me. And the only way I learn is by listening, and it's by asking. And one of my mentors keeps saying, there is no right and wrong question. Because sometimes you feel like very dumb, like, hey, if you ask these questions, it might sound very stupid. That's not what you're thinking. But in come to think of it, there's no stupid question in business. That's the only way we learn. That's the only way we get inquisitive and we get ahead. So the same case, and this is why I think we started this kind of lives, because as the previous day when I do along, and by the way, today I think I have, by any chance, before I go home, I literally need to do that long. But as opposed to the longs whereby, you just edit, then you put it there, and you'll have maybe hundreds or even thousands of people watching. But the thing is, I don't want to say there is no human element or human nature involved in it, but it's just it. And the easiest way, even if you ask me a question, then I'll come back. I always try to answer all the question, because I know for someone to ask something, they have something. But for me, texting, it will be very limited, as opposed to this one. For this one, I see a question and I'll be like, okay, I think through it, and then I'll give you more of like one-on-one reactions without really siphoning some of the information as I would have. So feel free. Don't be scared. It's business, and yeah. Meanwhile, I need to put some fun. Just a minute, guys. It's a bit hot, and I'm in the coastal region, so you can imagine. Sometimes can always be so hot. It's crazy. And I guess that's why most people tend to visit the crazy, not the crazy coastal region, but the coastal region, which is amazing. So back to the case study we were doing. So for this business, which we've been following, it's a business called City Garbage Recyclers, and two amazing entrepreneurs started to come together. And at this moment, just like us, they have been doing planning for the entire business. And now the major question comes to them. How much startup capital do they need before they kickstart their business idea? And this is the same thing I keep saying to all those entrepreneurs who keep asking me. Before you get started, have a proper plan. Get to decide how much you need and get to think through it. So for City Garbage Recyclers, John and Mary also did the same. So they were able to estimate how much startup capital they needed to start their business. They plan to start their business in April and think it will take 2 months before they fully cover their monthly expenses. Also, when we say before they fully cover, this is a break-even point. And I know we've not talked about it, but typically break-even point is a point whereby your business sales will be able to reach that amount which you have invested to your business in that particular moment. So you've got to determine sometimes how many months. Sometimes even businesses takes years before they break even, but it's usually based on the amount of, one, the capital they have invested in the business, as well as the operation in terms of the sales. So for City Garbage Recyclers, this is what they found out. In terms of investment, which they need for the next 2 months, because they are finding, okay, if we have this money for the next 2 months, the business will be self-reliant. We don't need to put anything from outside unless it's a growth phase. So for them, they talked about business premises. This is whereby they talked about construction or purchasing of the building. And for that, they literally decided to go for leasing. Reason for them, they were like, they'll be putting so much money into building a new warehouse as opposed to leasing for them. Then they went to the equipment and tools. They have given amount how much they needed. For furnitures and fittings, this is when you have an office, just like this office before here. You cannot stay in an office if you don't have furniture for it, the chairs, the tools, and even other things. Now, they had a couple of around 30,000 USD. That is in terms of initial business premises setup, machineries, and obviously for machineries, if you've been following this case, is what they were going to use to do the whole recycling and everything. Now, in terms of working capital, and an important notice is whereby they say they do not stock raw materials until the business starts. Sometimes it's different. There are those businesses like us here at ILO Feeds. We have to stock raw materials first before the business starts. So for them, they had zero in terms of the raw materials. So then they had to talk about the trade council licenses. I think when you were talking about the organization structure, we mentioned, and this was on forms of businesses, I remember, we mentioned the need for your entrepreneur to know the structure that you're going to take for your business, and then the kind of the licenses involved. And in that phase, you are able to define which license you need and how much they're going to cost you. So for them, they have done the same. They have also given amount for marketing expenses, salaries again for the next 2 months, and then rent, we talked about it. In terms of water, electricity, again, these are normal things for normal business to run. They have been able to do that. And by the end of the day, they have also done a 30% contingency fund. This is whereby we say at any given point, no matter how smart you are, how innovative you are, you'll never be 100% through exhibition. So it's always advisable to have a buffer working capital. So for them, they have a buffer working capital of 30%. So at the end of the day, they realize they need a total working capital of around 52,300 USD. Now, it's the same case with you. Before now, we go to the next segment, and this is whereby, where are they going to get this money? Because even for you, you're asking yourself, okay, I've written my business plan. I've now gone to the last part by determining this is the startup capital I need. So where do I get the money? Before you get that, just as I'll do a summary for anyone who's joining in, because lives are always interesting. So you get someone at the beginning and then someone joining in and they wonder, what is this discussion about? So what we have been doing is we have defined startup capital, what it is, and we have classified it in two ways. One is capital investment. This is now, I'll go back to what Ms. Duo had said, business assets. This is where you put in money in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the machinery. In most cases, is usually the most heaviest investment. And the last bit is on working capital. And this is the type of money that you need for operation to run smoothly. Then after you've done that, we've gone deeper to see, looked at this case study for this business, city garbage recyclers, of how much money they needed. And we've seen it in terms of the numbers. And as I said, as most entrepreneurs at this moment, you are like, okay, I need this and this. So where do you get the money? So I'll be interested again. If you're watching this live, come on, let me know. And I see, Mr. You're saying the break-even point is the level at which the company total revenue equals the total cost, resulting neither profit nor loss. Definitely, you've been able to meet, for example, simply how much have you invested? So, if a case for Afrifama, you'd ask yourself, how much have we invested until at one particular moment that money has been able to come back in that equal amount? So there is no loss, there is no profit. And only after the break-even point, your business will start making profit. But I really wish David was here. David is one of our K accountant and someone we went to school with. He's very sharp, and he'll be able to take you through certain graph they use in accounting, which can really helps you in terms of how you find the break-even point in terms of even months with a very good adjustment. I hope I can be able to bring him sometime. I know he's a very busy person, but also very brainy and very good person you can be able to use, because like for him, he usually help us with complex numbers. Because as I said, I love numbers, but I'm not really gifted with numbers. So I can do the bare minimum. This is the normal business model. I can be able to do a business plan from the scratch, whereby I can be able to do, for example, what we're doing. But when we go to the complexities, like the break-even point, then you need even a sharper mind. And even in your businesses, I usually keep saying, if your business can allow, and this is when you're planning for this, if your business can allow, and there are people who are more sharper than you, who have more skills than you in a different segment of a business, don't be shy to reach out to those people. If you have an ability, don't also be shy to pay for their skills. They will understand. Even I'll give an example for David. So he'll understand if you're working for, if you have a small startup business. For example, for them, they do with the filings, they do with auditing, they do with anything concerned in terms of the businesses. They will understand where you're coming from. If you're also looking for someone in marketing, and maybe they're also good. The other day I was talking to a very good friend of mine. Her name is, oh my God, I've forgotten her name. She would kill me if she had me. Shakrin. So Shakrin is someone who is so good with the digital tools and strategy. And I also remember saying the same thing to one of my friends. So they have a business which can help you to grow. And for me, I see it this way. If you see someone like that, and their expertise can be able to bring your business to another level, instead of you dedicating all the time and resources, why not set aside some of working capital for that particular person, so that they come in, they help you meet up your business, and you scale. But I know for most of us African entrepreneurs, unfortunately, we see it as a waste. We see it as a waste of money when you bring in a professional. But for those businesses which are ready to scale, they see it as an opportunity. I hope that makes sense. Let me know your guys on the thought for the same. But of course, if you are also starting out and it's maybe very hard for you, don't feel bad if you cannot be able to afford some of these capitals needed. It just happened. But don't be hard on yourself, but also plan it. And this is why we are having a business plan. Plan it ahead, get to know what's needed. So where do you get the money? Where do you get the startup fund that you need? So obviously, the first thing is what we call owner's equity. Now, in terms of the owner's equity, ILO goes on to say, this is the equity or the contribution from the owners to start their business is the private money that they put into the business. So As an entrepreneur saving can be possible through source of owner's equity. Entrepreneurs can use targeted savings account to accumulate some of all the funds they will need to start their business. Saving an entrepreneur, savings that an entrepreneur does not want to invest into a business could also serve as cash or collateral for the loan. Now, owner's equity is called risk capital because the owners are risking their own money on the business. Whatever form of business you start, you will have to invest some money of your own. Then, if you don't have enough money for yourself, you can consider finding a partners or partners who are interested in investing in the business. You should not allow a partner to own more than half of the business. Is a very interesting case. So if you own less than 50%, you will forfeit the right to make decision for that business. So let's start with the first bit, bootstrapping. It's very funny. When I started my very first business, I remember because my very first business was not even based on partnership. And I think now that I'll be going home for December, I should actually shoot a vlog on the very first poultry farm I ever started back at home. So how did I get started? I realized I had just graduated from school and I wanted to become an entrepreneur. But then when we got to analyze different ways of raising financing, we realized there was no external financing for it. And I remember in one of these cases I mentioned, we had a group of young people I had brought together, very like-minded people. We wanted to start business. And one time we were just there talking, and then I realized, wait a minute, none of us has the money. And at the same time, I was also reading this amazing book by Professor Noam Wasserman, and it's called Founder's Dilemma. And I got to understand deeper the kind of dilemmas you face as an entrepreneur. And one of them was on financing dilemmas. And this is working. That's when I realized I need to find a job. Trust me, when I graduated from school, finding a job was the least bit I would ever do because I wanted to do startups. I wanted to build business from the scratch, but I didn't have money. And the more we tried to look for money, because I remember even going for the county government, and that time there was this funds called Funds for the Youth. And I'm also very thankful. At the time, my dad did not have the money, but he had numerous land. So he had given me his title. And he said, okay, you want to start a business? You start. I'm not going to sell land for you, but I'm going to give land as a security. And to cut the story short, it was a no-go zone for the youth fund because we never got it. So I made a decision to start working. And I think that's when I ended up going for my first job. That's in real estate. I think by the moment I was working for a former member of parliament in our locality. Again, another crazy story of how that happened. So I worked for 6 months. Then I realized how much they were paying me. I would never save enough money to start a business, quit the job, went for another business job, which now helped me. I saved enough money for 6 months because at the back of my mind, I knew now the business I wanted to start. And of course, by that moment, the group had disbanded. So I saved almost close, I think, to 200, almost 150 or 200,000. And as I said, I had my business plan, and I knew more than half of that, almost 40%, was going to the capital expenditure. So that was going to be infrastructure because I had to build from the scratch. Then the other money which I was getting and the one that was going to get in the other months following, because remember, I didn't quit my job to concentrate on business full time. I started the business would grow while I was also on travel. I used to go any town in Kenya. I don't think there is any town now, in Kenya I've not gone. And thanks to, I had this amazing job, and also I had a great boss, which by then was really amazing. I had all the tools, the money, and the empowerment to transverse Kenya. So that's how I raised my very first financing. And in layman's language, that's what we call bootstrapping. So if you are thinking of starting a business, the most easiest way, but also the hardest way to fund your business, it's bootstrapping. And again, unless you're in a tech state, or unless you are this, I want to say crazy in quotes, but this innovative genius guy, nobody will ever invest in your idea if yourself you've not put substantial amount of financing. So what do you do? If you don't have a job, nowadays I tell you, you know what? Get a job, start saving. But don't forget about the dream. You've written up your business plan, have it. Know exactly how much do you need to start your business. Then look for a job. Which if you calculate, you know how many months or years do you need to earn to save to start that business. And of course, don't forget about the buffer, because that's also something I forgot. So what did I do? COVID happened. My business was running on, was coming up well. And I think I started with around 120 chicks. Very impressive. And I keep saying I need to shoot this video. I forget. And COVID happened. And also disease happened. So if I was supposed to have any buffer working capital, it was gone. Remember when we said you need to plan ahead, you need to determine how long should you break even point happen. You need to have 30 or 15 or 30% of buffer working capital. COVID happened. So my business was running, but my business was still not bringing in money. And then disease happened. So that was, I think, my very first failure in business. And we ended up losing a lot. Other than the equipment, I think the only money I made from that investment was almost, I think, 25,000. So never break even. And now we are like, where? If I really want to grow this business, if I really want to go ahead, I still need to have another job. Because even at the time, I still knew, even if I had the collateral, even if I had all the land and everything, my bank accounts needed to be better. And that's where the banks comes in. But we'll go into details about that. So what did I do? I ended up finding myself in the coastal region. Most people keep asking me, how did you find yourself? So I got a job with an NGO, very good NGO. Not really a lot of money, as most people think NGO are, but it was interesting because now for first time in my life, I was in that phase whereby I was doing what I love, and that is entrepreneurship advisory, a bit of trainings, and that was my background. Because remember, I majored in entrepreneurship, and at that time, I remember telling my mom, I just need to go to coastal region for 2 years, and for these 2 years, with this job offer I have, I'll have enough money to bounce back, and that's what I did. So when now I came to launching Afrifama officially, because before it was an official, there was no documentation or anything. When I now decided to launch it for the same time, I now also graduated in terms of sources of the capital. I remember one of my mates, this is James, when we were trying to come up with the previous group, very resourceful guy. So I told James, hey, I'm restarting a business I've had back home. And if you are interested, this is how I see you coming into the business. This is how I see yourself helping. Because for him, unlike me, he's in technological space. So for me, I'm a business guy. I'm the hustler. I'm the vision. For him, he can code. He can develop systems. And I knew, and by now we have not even done that, trust me. So don't even try to look for what we've done. So I saw the vision whereby I'll need a James in the future. Very good guy. So I tell him, hey, if you're willing, I'll need your, at one time, you might not need to come full time. At one time, this is what I see us doing. But you also need more money. So I need more money. So what can you do? James says, I have a couple of 100 grants I can put into the business. Fantastic guy. So you see, now we have graduated. We have gone past bootstrapping. Now we've gone to partnership. Because as I also said into business planning phase, along the way you realize, and this was even in the form of business, you realize you need more skills, you need more expertise, and you also need to spread your risk. So James happened. James brought his skills. He's building amazing website for us. He's building amazing prototype, which I cannot speak for now. It's still being built. And he gave his own money. So at that moment, as a founder, you have to let go of the control. And I'm also very thankful because at that moment, when one of the books I can always credit, which has helped me in decision making of how do you lose control, how do you get investment, is Founder's Dilemma, which I think one day, once if you're not talking about business, we should talk about it. It's written by Professor Noam Wasman. And I remember him saying, one of the dilemmas for entrepreneurs is control versus wealth building. You want to own 100%, but you don't want to relinquish control. Or you want to build wealth, but you don't want to relinquish control. You'll never grow unless you have crazy innovation. So James came and we built Afrifama from that stage. And at the same moment, we realized there are more financing options available. And that's the moment I also met one of my amazing friends, which I don't talk often about her. This is McKenna. So at the time, McKenna was a correspondent for this organization. She is based in Germany. And one time when I was researching, because I keep saying even for founders, we need to do as much research as possible. I found an organization known as WIDO. And guess who was the correspondent? Who was doing this, like the way we are doing here today? Who was doing them? McKenna. Very funny story. And James, I hope one day when you come live, you can tell this story. We got acquainted with McKenna. And every Tuesday, I was still employed. Remember, I've not left the job in the NGO. The contract was coming to an end. That was now 6 months to the end. So that's when we are doing this. I remember meeting McKenna, sitting in a session. They will talk about amazing organization. We do, how we do is partnering with African entrepreneurs, not just here in Kenya, but entire sub-Saharan Africa. And McKenna again would say this, I think I was the most consistent guy in her life. So she'll talk about it, everybody leaves, and then we are left with McKenna. God bless her soul. Then I'll get to know much more. Because when you are so many people, you cannot get to know everything. So I'll ask McKenna, okay, tell me more about WIDO. Tell me more, how do I get? And then McKenna would say, what are you working on? So I would explain the concept of Afrifama, one edge, what we want to start with, where we want to go, and she will listen. I remember we became so close that at one stage she was like, send me your business plan. Let me have a look at it so that she could also help me. It's aligned with the WIDO's application. And I went that live for, it's crazy, 4 to 6 months. Every Tuesday, McKenna was live. You can guess who was live. And that's how we built up. Because I also knew when we were also coming up with this financing, we needed more money. Because as I said, The more we did business planning, the more I realized that the more money I need than I anticipated. And that day, McKenna introduced me to her friends in Germany. Amazing lady. I don't know. We don't talk more a lot, but she deserved the flowers. And she was like, okay, this is amazing. Because remember, we couldn't work with the McKenna directly. She's a correspondent for WeDo, and she had her project which she was supporting. And later on, I'll talk about WeDo, guys. Don't worry. In a different session. So one way was WeDo, you had to have someone based in Germany, but a Kenyan. They would invite you for a project. And at that moment, they had a cap of around 700,000, which is almost 5,000 euros. For a startup capital, it's a lot of money, but for the level we are in, it's very less at the moment. But at that moment, it's everything we needed. So we were like, James, so this is how much we have. So if we can match that, we double back our money, which means we invest more and we grow more. And together with James McKenna, and now our new correspondent, which she is amazing. She is amazing. And I tell you, we've worked with her for more than 3 times. And she was like, this is it. That's the very first time I got congratulations. Your grant application has been accepted. Now you can imagine I was in a session and I knew for how long it took, almost 8 months to get started with that. And I was like, boom. And true as it is, we went now from bootstrapping to partnership to now grant. And true to their word, WeDo came in. WeDo supported us. And I can tell you for a fact, I've not seen an organization which support entrepreneurs. No string attached, no those whatever people do like scheming behind the scene than we do. And we did the first project, brilliant. But once remember, for you to be in WeDo, you have to be an entrepreneur and a very honest entrepreneur and a very thorough entrepreneur. Why? Because every coin you use in your business has to be accounted. And I can tell you, for the first time, I saw the biggest investment we can. We were investing close to 700 to 800 thousand for a very fast project. A very big money, because remember when I was bootstrapping alone, I had started with around 150K. But now when I open up, head James, head WeDo, we now be able to grow our investment to that cap. And we did the first. We went for the second. The second was amazing. It was a local call from WeDo. And remember, I had seen, and this is why business planning is so essential, because when I was writing business plan for Afrifama, I knew at the back of my mind how Afrifama should look like in the next 4 or 5 years. Irrespective of what people are seeing, even what you guys you see now, is not yet what Afrifama is. It's still in very, very fast stages. I know exactly. And this is why I keep telling people it's so essential to do a proper business plan. Because without that document, I couldn't know. And then with it, I was able to know this is what we are doing at phase 1, at phase 2, at phase 3. So when we went to phase 2, this is when we were pivoting. Animal feeds has been crazy. How much did I need to invest into animal feeds for a start? You'd guess the same exact amount. Was the poultry unit making 800K? Yeah, because we were just doing production. So what do you do? I had a brilliant concept put into it. And at that moment again, we did not have enough money as well. I don't know, guys. We have invested so much into this business. We didn't have. So I had to think, what do we need? We need more money. Who do I know? Along the way, I had made another interesting friend. who I know would love to remain anonymous, but he is amazing, amazing friend. And this is Sarah. We had worked with her before, and then I remember her mentioning that if you ever need an investor, or if you ever need someone to come on board for your project, don't hesitate. So one day when we are now pivoting and we have seen an opportunity, but we don't have enough money, I'm like, oh my God, we need more money. At that moment, we still don't want to go to the banks yet, because I know banks are crazy. And because I also know a break-even point is very far away for this type of investment. So I called Sarah. But when she's not in the country, hey, Sarah, I'm sending you an email for a business I'm expanding. If you are interested, have a look at it. We can have a quick call on Sunday. Who's Sarah? She was like, good, send me an email. So I did. And for the following months, we had like quick talk with Sarah. She went through the numbers, she went through the business plan, and she saw it. Something most people don't do. This is why I credit this to James and Sarah, because when you now find such partners, those partners are for life, guys. You keep them, because they are now the guys who are like, they are not organization. These are your people. So Sarah was like, okay, this is good. I was also thinking of investing back home. So what do you need? Okay, this is how much I need. How much? And it's very funny. Well, it's not into public record domain, and I will not put it there, for a very tiny, small shareholding, because by that moment we are scaling and we know how much we should be worth in the future. She was like, it's good. And we now grew from 1 partners, 2 partners, 3 partners, and we had WeDo on our back. And WeDo again, we were able now to get what we need, and we pivoted. But now this is the twist. We did something, the mistake, remember that mistake I told you most entrepreneurs make, whereby you feel you are investing and then you're like, all the money will come back. So WeDo supported us to set up entire Patre, to set up half of our production line. Then Afrifama had to reinvest, and also through external investing from Sarah, we had to set up now part of the machinery is the line we needed. What is the classic mistake we made? Working capital, guys. Working capital. At that moment, I realized, oh my God, I have a machinery which can make 1 ton in an hour, but I don't have working capital. So what do? As a classic entrepreneur, because I also know we will never finance working capital because of their policies, so don't ask. They only do a certain percentage. As a classic entrepreneur, I do more research. And at the moment, one of our business unit was really not doing well. So we had people who had defaulted almost. We had actually thought the amount of money which we would have made by the end of that year would have closer around maybe 500 or 600, and then we are like, we're going to invest that as a working capital for the feeds unit, just to borrow in between the companies. And boom. That's the December guys decided to scam me, man. We lost more than 450,000, which we sold for the other company, which now means I have 2 companies. One company has been scammed. The other company doesn't have working capital. And for it working capital, it needs hundreds of thousands. Hundreds, not even 10, hundreds. Do I have a job? No. I'm now working full-time as an entrepreneur because I have this amazing startup. Wow. Another classic example for entrepreneurs dilemma. So I start thinking, what do I do? 1 minute we have, you're falling off the cliff. You feel so sad for yourself. And then you have a dream to build. Obviously, for the partners I have, they have invested money. And they don't have more money to invest. So there is no way James is going to invest more money. Sarah is not going to invest more money. I'm not going to invest more money because I don't have a job. And also for them, it's because they have other issues they have to handle. And I'm like, shit. That's the moment you say you're literally fucked as an entrepreneur. Because, forgive my language, we say this is a real talk, right? You're like, oh my God, need to find. So when I was working on my startup for the feeds, is I would work on a prototype on the very limited budget. And this take us to example when I said my very first shipment for the animal feeds I ever made was less than 100 kgs. That's how much I could, because that's how much I could salvage to buy raw materials. I still needed to test to see would these feeds work with everything. Of course, I had written a concept about them, I had seen it, but I didn't have working capital. So I started working pole pole. You go to this creditor who scammed you, you try to squeeze him to see if he can pay back. Those who pay good, those who doesn't pay, you say, karma is a bitch and it's going to come for you guys sooner or later. But then you're like, okay, you lost it. You move forward, because as an entrepreneur, you really need to move fast and forward as much as you can. At that moment, that is now 6 months later on, I met this another amazing friend. His name is Andrew Sikuthani. We've met in a forum in one of the coastal region. And I remember, this is why when we are talking about business planning, I keep saying, when you're determining if you're ready to be an entrepreneur, you also need to go to these forums for entrepreneurs within the ecosystem, have a sit down with them, chat, talk your problems, think through. So that moment, I met Andrew. And Andrew's listened what we are working on. And also I told Andrew, you know what? I just need money, man. I need a lot of working capital. At the moment, Andrew, he was also he had this amazing business in Kilifi. It's in the Lima space, I think. Very good networking space. Later on, we became so friends. He even invited us for dinner. And I also remember I invited one of my good friends. I don't know if she is live here. Ima. She's also a brand strategist. And then we went for that dinner with also another friend of mine, Mary. So we got close. And one day Andrew said, you know what? I know of a fund which Afrifama can actually get into and can really help you. And that's what I got to know about education. So if you see my writings, I keep on saying, because I share this information. Why? Because this information are still there. It does not mean because Afrifama raised from WIDO or education, it's closed for all entrepreneurs. No. So Andy tells me about education, but now education it's like a grant, but it's not a grant because you'll have to sell your shareholders. But it's very competitive. And then he says, but I know you, man. You're good. I've seen your business. It's legit. Also remember, when we're also talking about raising, we also have two categories of entrepreneurs. There are the honest entrepreneurs who want to raise for their businesses, and there are also the scam entrepreneurs who want to raise for their lifestyle. Now, for me, by now, you know the kind I am. So I'm just trying to raise for my business. I just want to grow. So I follow Andrew's advice. He sends me the link. I do the application, and wow, one of the craziest application I've ever done. That is mid last year, but one. And they're like, you've gone to the next stage. Congratulations. So it's a team based in Switzerland, actually now. You see now how guys, I don't want to now base raising financing on what this book is saying. I'm basing it on my own journey. So we started with bootstrap. We went to partnership. We graduated to grant with WIDO. And we've now graduated to the fall stage, and this education. So education at that moment, they had started this journey whereby they are looking to work with 1,000 entrepreneurs in Africa. And they had launched a startup fund. So it's a team based in Switzerland, but they have a Kenyan team or even teams in different countries. And for this call, guess who they are looking? They are looking for an entrepreneur in food sector, and they just need 3. So that's the moment you are like, you are A game. And thanks God I went to entrepreneurship school and I've been doing entrepreneurship. So I do a whole documentation. Then I also send my pitch. And guys, don't worry, I will not talk about the pitch deck, because pitch deck is what we'll be talking later on in other weeks, because it's the most essential tool you need to know to master if you want to raise financing externally. So we go for the first round. Congratulations, you've gone to the second round. Everybody excited. This is James, Sarah, I am. But remember, as a vision bearer, you have to keep on. You have to be the engine, You're excited, but you also know at that moment, you're not gifted that you're going to succeed. Because also something else I've not said is, at the same moment before I went to higher education, we had tried to approach different companies into equity ourselves, because we felt that's the only way. And we had done well, because I remember there's a time even we went to Westland. Westland, if you're in Nairobi, is one of those suburbs for high class guys. Money is there, and it was an international company as well. I don't know why, but I really wish us Kenyans we could invest on our own, but unfortunately we don't, because it's a funny story. I even tried, even our own Kenyans, and they end up wasting my time, or they take you around. So for most people, especially international companies, for most people, again, just in case I forgot, for most people, again, other than international, it's very interesting, guys. My mic had gone off. One is working. Good. For most of these international companies, there's no bullshitting, guys. And this is why I love working with international partners. And it's not about the Mzungu syndrome. I know there is a company that did a documentary for the same, so it's not that. Because I've tried to pitch my idea to my own local people, and other than James and Sarah, and these are the same young people on the same level, so they're not really money as someone else in the stage. So most people you can. Before our education, we had gone to even boardrooms, and it was crazy. We didn't get in. Sometimes you go for the meetings, they turn you down. Sometimes they tell you they don't have enough money. Sometimes they tell you, oh, you're good, but I don't think you're ready. So it's now for you as an entrepreneur. And of course, Tony Elumelu. Who would have forgotten about Tony Elumelu? Oh my God. I had applied for Tony Elumelu for 5 times. Remember, every year before even I got started. So don't even get me started with the TEF. I even made, just check for some of the videos which we've made for this channel about Tony. Man, at one moment I felt Tony was going to be my savior. I don't know why. It never happened. So when we're working on an education pitch, I'm like, it's good, it's gonna save me, and this is it. But I also acknowledge the previous failures of raising financing, the previous disappointment, also in terms of the level I am in. But I'm confident. So we go to pitching number 2, pitching session number 4. We go pitching session number, you're in this call, right? So I'm not bullshitting. We went for more than 6 rounds of pitching. The last one, it's a crazy one. Before the last one, the 5th one, they required me now to do a video like this, pitching, and send me the video later on, because they have a jury, which means they're really trying to get these highly scalable entrepreneurs. Of course, they know. Remember when I said there are 2 types of entrepreneurs? The bullshitting entrepreneurs who want to raise money for their lifestyle, which they are so bad because they make a bad name for entrepreneurs like us, for startups, and the crazy builders who just want to raise money, we build. So I made a video, and thanks God, because at the same time, I had started my YouTube channel. So that 1 year ago, before this to happen, I had started my YouTube channel. So it was my second time. So what do? I make a pitch. And how do I use it? I attach it to my YouTube channel. Yeah, it's there. And actually today, I'm gonna unlock that video because it's private. At that moment, it was essential for the juries. Believe it or not, guys, for me to go to the final phase, more than 6 people had to watch that pitch video from this YouTube channel. And this is why I love YouTube, you know. Sometimes you're like, oh God, why do I do YouTube? But then I also get to remind myself, without this platform, since I don't have godfathers, I would have never raised a single sharing for my business. So they checked the video, it's fantastic. So the video, my pitch deck, my business plan, and other meetings all checked in. Because at the same time, the reason why they're doing level 1, level 2, level 3, level 5, they want to see or to level the people who have bullshit, they leave them, they get the serious one. The 6th time when we are pitching, I'm in Nairobi. That moment, I had gotten a brand deal with Air Force. Most of you've seen me wear a white T-shirt with the logo for Air Force. It's Animal Feeds manufacturing, not manufacturing, it's a software company that have precision animal feed formulation softwares which helps people. So again, I'll tell a story. How did Air Force find me? Through this YouTube channel. So I'm in Nairobi. Those guys had given me a first class from Mombasa to Nairobi, and they had actually booked me in Safari Park. I swear to God, I've never been into Safari Park. That's the moment that I'm like, damn, I'm excited. But at the same time, I need to pitch the 6th time to iEducation. So I go to Safari Park early in the morning, and in the evening, James in Nairobi has a work office. I tell James, hey, we have that pitch coming up. I need a proper station. By that moment, my machine had troubles. So even right now, I use desktop. I prefer them. James says, come to my home office. We pitch through there. It'll be good. So what happened? At that moment, there was Maandamano. It was like Maandamano Tuesday. Every Tuesday in Kenya, there was a crazy demonstration. At that moment, my heart sank because my pitch was supposed to start at 4 a.m. sharp. Other people, we were competing with, the 6 of them, I don't know, the 10, for the final 3 slots, they had shared it. For me, I had chosen 4 because I had to present Air Force for those crazy 3 days. And on my way to James, I'm like, I might not get this one. And it's a lot of money because I'm in demos. The roads are crossed. I remember we are in Thika Superhighway. That time it was not a superhighway. Actually, it's superhighway. So we are in Thika Road, but we cannot use it because people have blocked part of the road. So the driver, I'm really urging, I was almost telling him, I will pay for entire vehicle. Why? I mean, Air Force had given me money, had paid me. I think the very first time I ever had enough brand money from this kind of, vlogs. So I'm late. I'm telling James, you know what? If I'm late now, I know you've not pitched, but come on, go live and talk what you know. Tell them I sent you. But deep inside, I'm scared because, not that I don't believe in James, because James has not been pitching. This is the face they know. This is the person. I know my script, and it's not a script. I know how to do effective pitching. I know how to, I also hope my investor is not in this call. Because if he's in, he's assume I used that. But I know how to reel in investors. It's like fishing. You know how to convince. It's like the way you're listening to this story. That's how fundraising is. So to make the story short, We managed to get to James' place, but very late, but we did manage. And behind the scene is I'm alone. I have James has this amazing setup in his office. And then on the other side, I see a meet of jury from Switzerland, 6 amazing guys, because they have now brought in the donor who is funding this 1,000 enterprises. And I know this is it. It's this is it, guys. And I tell James, you know what? Wish me luck. Boom. I go to the trademark Afrifama motion. That is when I know I'm flying. I start my pitch, the reason, the why, the numbers, the vision, the team, they ask. So I think it's either it has run out. Just a minute. Oh God. I think it's a visa run out. Let me try to more, and maybe it was not proper. Yeah, it's charging now, right? Let me try to start it. Oh God, it's still not starting. So let me start using it. I hope it's audible now, right? Please confirm if the sound is back, or anyone else in the session other than Anita. Is the sound good now? It's green, it should be it's connected. If it's green, it should be it's connected. If not, um, just a moment. Okay, how do you do this? I'm just gonna adjust it. Yeah, I've seen you said you're back, but I still don't know if it's still back, because it does use a receptor, the phone. How back now at this moment? Just give me a thumbs up. Yeah, I know. I should be looking at it, because if I look at it, it goes off. It's good now. Please let me know. I think it did run out of the juice, which is interesting. because I know we might be talking for a very long time. I'd actually planned to do 30 minutes on. Then I just ran out. I don't know why. Still not. Oh my God. Crazy. I might have been talking and then no voice coming in. Oh my God. I'm still trying to, what I'll do is, forgive me guys. I'm gonna use the phone. It should be good. So I'm not using it like, I'm not using, you really need to pray for me so that I can succeed. So I can invest in proper sound equipment. I hope it's good, but unfortunately for this, I have to use the phone. So let me ask you, until what moment did you lose my voice? Let me know. Let me know your thoughts. I promise you guys, it's a weekend. I know you're tired. But once we are able to finalize the startup side, then you should be back. This is good. Then you should be. I wanted to confirm with my other phone. It's good. It's good. So crazy story time, guys. At that moment, and I keep saying, it's good to give feedback where it's due. Sound is not working. How is that so, Anita? Sound isn't working. How is that so? I mean, I'm not muted. Anyone else in this life, please let me know if you can hear me. I'm now scared. I'm just looking. Because the most terrible thing is, but I don't know. I've checked with an in up now. So you're going to hear an echo, forgive me. But just to confirm. An in up now. So you're going to hear an echo, forgive me. Yeah, it's working on my end, Mister. Kindly check on your end, kindly. Because I've done the same. I've checked with my own equipment. And it's definitely working. Let me know. So, story time. Raising startup capital. Where did we reach? We reached whereby we were able to raise and financing through a very small, very tiny percentage for one of the companies. And there's a reason for that, guys. But at the same time, I did a crazy move. I reached out to one of the companies. No, I did a crazy move. This is whereby I went to LinkedIn and I told you, when you're an entrepreneur, be shameless. Don't care what people say. It's like when you decide to become a creator. Be shameless. You do life like this. You have no idea what people are gonna say, but just do it because this is what you love. This is what you love doing. So the same time as an entrepreneur, be shameless. Do what you can be able to do to raise money for your business. So at the same time, I had written an open letter to Dear Investor in LinkedIn, and I even shared it even on Facebook. At Facebook, I got a backlash from someone who said, one of my mentors keep telling me this story because it's funny. One of the guys said, "You'll never raise a dime by writing such a story." And then he says you need real numbers. And then he also said, I need to follow Strive Masiyewa, which for me, it was so funny because Strive Masiyewa has been my mentor for the 10 years. I met him once at Strathmore University. So when Strive Masiyiwa talks, I mean, for most of you who don't know who is Strive, Strive Masiyiwa is one of the biggest entrepreneurs in sub-Saharan Africa. He is a billionaire, but not those crazy rich billionaires, but those impactful billionaires. So Strive had started companies such as Cassava Inc., Econet, and every time, every week, Strive would write on Facebook, "Dear entrepreneur, you can do this." And he would share the lessons which he had used to grow his own business. So when this crazy friend said you can and you need to listen or you need to follow, it was a good thing because it was a confirmation of, oh, I really know my CEO, but I didn't backlash from him. I was like, yeah, it's good. I believe you where you're coming from, but nevertheless, I believe. So out of that crazy move, and that's why it matters, is a company reached out. They had also launched their startup fund in Mombasa. And it's not a big fund, it's a very small fund. And they were looking for coastal entrepreneurs. But now for them, they were doing debt financing, not equity, not grant, but they were using debt financing. So they did their own due diligence. As an entrepreneur, one of the things that I hate, but they're important, it's due diligence. It makes you wait, hope, go in the moon and come back again, because this company, just like the education, they did a thorough due diligence for this other company, and this is Afrifama Poultry. And we went for initial ask, which they said is too big, and then we were told to revise it further, and eventually they did agree to give us a bit of debt financing. So together with what we are getting from the business, it meant we could be able even to scale even way faster. And I don't know, guys, I'm one of these people who still believe in building, believe in scaling something 10x. And at that moment, we had at least good capital. So if you combine that, I would say we had raised close to 2M. I don't know how much, 20,000 USD maybe at one given moment. So for the first time, we are like, okay, this is good. So we invested in a bit of infrastructure which we thought we needed. We invested with key things which have been affecting the other business. And also for the feeds, the amount we got, we had working capital for getting raw materials, hiring the feeds formulation, and they're very expensive. Because I said myself, I can do formulation, but I'm not an expert. Getting proper branding, getting team of experts, and every coin will go into business, going to the farmers, those campaigns. And that's how we, when you see Afrifama Feeds and everything, that's how cumulatively this kind of financing has helped. Because as I said, when you're doing your business planning, remember, you need to state clearly the financing you need. When you see Afrifama Poultry as a unit, when you need to know what it has taken for it to be there. I think by now we've had like 3 production facilities. We now even have modern waterline water facilities, which was a very problematic, but we had to use a lot. But along the way again, we also lose money, and you also gain money, and you also need to expand. At that moment, I was like, man, I remember this finance minister for Uganda, Honorable Kagwanja, and at TikTok, he's very funny at that moment because he would say, guys, listen, we need more money. I know. He would start by saying, I know, guys, what you're wondering. At this moment, we have managed to raise some money. We have received, in quotes, some donations, grants in quotes. And I would smile because most people thought it was funny. Now it was me in real time. I'm like, at this moment, I had bootstrapped. I had brought in partners. We've got some grant money, and we've sold some percentages. But still, we still needed more money, guys. So I know it's crazy, doesn't make sense to all of you, but trust me, once you go from 0 to 10, it doesn't matter. At that moment, you're okay with the growth level. You're okay with just you doing, it's like what we call mom and pop shop. But I'll loop you to another story another day of Vusi Themba Choir. One of my partners here will remember it when Vusi says, if you want to build a scalable enterprise, you need to think through entire system. You need to think through its ecosystem. You need to own the rails from the initial to the very end. And that's the only way you're going to succeed. Hello, Zens. Good to see you. I hope this is making sense to you. So, Vusis goes on to say the small lie of small business. And even when I listened to this speech 3 years ago, I wanted to say 10, and I remember 10 years, I was still in school. He goes on to say why, for you to succeed, if you consider businesses, he compares interesting case of two businesses. He is a South African, and he says in South Africa there's interesting dish, they call them coltards, which is simply a bread, then they have some sausages. It's like what here in Kenya, when we don't use bread, we're using chapatis. We call them smocha, you know? You have a bit of chapatis and sausages. But in South Africa, they're using bread, sausages, and some leaves. And for colters, it's an informal business for any other South African. But then comes in a crazy guy known as Papa Joe's. And for them, they see how they can expand the business. So they ended up owning an entire chain and opening chain stores which across the country. Well, if you're a shop, you're okay, you're making sizable money, it's good, no problem. But for the new franchise, by the end of the year after franchising and everything, they were R1 billion enterprise. He also went ahead in this talk to give an example of the round tables. You know how women come together, the chamas. Like even here in Kenya is a thing. I see my mother doing it, and maybe the women in this call, they can confirm. So they go around, merry-go-around, they contribute, then they do the raffle, then at the end of the day, you get the money. And I know even this time, Christmas, they will be happy because every members, they will be distributed the money. At the round time, an organization came up, and that's Absa Bank. So Vusi goes on to say how Absa Bank has scaled to be $1 billion run. Even in Kenya, we've seen Absa Bank. And this talk, my biggest takeaway when he was giving it was the need for us, especially African founders, African entrepreneurs, to think beyond mom and pop shop, mom and pop mindset. Not that it's wrong, but that is survival entrepreneurship. So even when I was building Afrifama, even right now, one thing I've always been at the back of my mind, even when I'm fundraising, so that I don't lose you. I just know Afrifama is not going to be a mom shop or mom pop shop. So I remember when I said I had a business plan, I knew exactly what it is. It's only that I knew I didn't have money, but I knew how it looks like. My problem, money. But so what I've done is Or what we have done now, because we are many, we have divided it into small bunches. At 1 year we are doing this, the next year we are pivoting, and the next year we reach to this level. Until a few months ago, when you were asking what do you do, I got an email, a very interesting email. I think at the time I was with my girlfriend. I had gone for holiday in Diani, and it was early breakfast, and then I see an email pop up, because when I go for a holiday, I make sure my phone is off, my email is off, it's just me. Then that day I just log in out of boredom, because I think we had stayed for 10 days. Yeah, even entrepreneurs, we need time to decongest. So I'm having breakfast, which again, my amazing girlfriend had made, and I see a text which made my heart stop. Someone said, "Hey guys, I've been trying to reach you, and I've gone through what you do, and I was in Kenya recently, and I think I like what you do. Let's have a call. Or answer my email, please." Now, at the back of my mind, I'm used to getting these calls. Often, not calls, like emails. I've seen those emails, and I've engaged with people. This was such a long story that I did not even tell you guys. One moment we had this Canadian person who wanted to invest in Afrifama, and we had almost an entire month of back and forth communication. They would ask you this and this, but of course I could see the bullshit. And other people we've tried, even the Kenyan people, my own people. So I wasn't sure if this was for real. But as usual, I need more money, guys. As Cassandra was saying in Ugandan parliament, I know we have raised the donation, we've had the grants. Back in my mind, for me to go beyond Papa Joe's shop, for me to grow Afrifama, that vision, I still need crazy money. So when this person reached out, I said, what? This possibly a good gift. And we start talking for months, guys. So I reply. And as usual, if you have ever raised financing, you know exactly what's needed. So you'll need a business plan. So before even you engage with any investor, don't even think about talking to them. They'll ask you your current updated business plan. Thanks God, through our education, I had learned that. Thanks God, through James, through Sarah, I had learned the issue of why. These are the tools you need, guys. Then, what else do you need? You need a pitch deck. You also need audited results. So if you are a business and you have been running for some time, you'll need those documents. And while I might not talk much about that, because technically it's something we are still working out around it, is where I can say for the first time, Afrifama got now a real angel investor. And not just someone who is putting in the money, but now someone who is thoroughly involved with the business. And I remember when I was telling my members, hey, this is amazing, because now for me, if you become my partners, then it's like we are in a marriage with you. There is no back and corners. We put things as it is. We are doing well, good. We are not doing well, good. This is happening. So James and Sarah can confirm this. And one day, this amazing angel says, you know what? I'll come to Kenya. Now back in my mind, I'm like, what? Yeah. He's from Europe. He's saying, I'll come to Kenya so that we can talk this into details, into in-depth. Because if you meet a serious investor, it's either physical or through online meetup. It has to happen. Because sometimes when we are talking about angel investor, is crazy investments. because you've now grown past booster. They need to understand your business. And I has also said this. Unfortunately for us entrepreneurs in sub-Saharan Africa, we have two types of entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs funding real lifestyle through fundraising, who has now costed us the real entrepreneurs who want to raise financing to scale, bad name. And then there is us. So for someone investing his own money sometimes, they need to come and meet with you. They don't need to be scammed because they know it's happened. So when we got that call, I was so excited. And I remember together with James, our co-founder here, going to the airport and meeting our angel, and it was amazing. Ended up spending a 1 week going again through the numbers. Thanks God for our accountant who has also helped with the same process. So we had prepared. Now, when someone tells you a meeting and they're coming for a real business meeting, these are things that now people will tell you. And by the way, I'm not asking you to pay for this, but I can assure you, you are going to pay for this when people call for investor readiness program. Yeah, crazy word, but simply means, is your business ready? Are you in a process to be funded by investors? So for you to be in that stage, you'll need to be investor ready. You'll need to be okay in so many domains. One of the tools, business plan, guys, business plan. Other of the tools, account, guys, they need to check in. And other than that, because even sometimes people who invest in you, something I've come to learn is not necessarily how big your business is. I've had people investing in me when I had literally zero money. I've had someone invest or even debt finance some of the operations when we've gone bankrupt. Sometimes I also tend to think it's more about the diligence. For you as an entrepreneur, your personality, as much as you be investor ready, those are the things. Because when you're going into the marriage, remember, it's not a one-way, it's a two-way. So those are the things you need to be ready for. And we're just grateful. So I know he's also one of the biggest supporters for the channel. So forever you're watching our good angel investors, I don't know if we could have done it without you, man. Because sometimes it takes a real person to believe in your vision and see the way you want to scale. Because I remember at one of the meetings together with James, we were brainstorming and something came up and he said, I know you have an amazing product, I can see it. And I also know what you don't have, it's money. But I want my founders, I want you guys not to worry about where the next coin is going to come from, but to worry about building. For me as an entrepreneur, that's like good news, because for all along, if you have listened to this crazy story of fundraising, one day you raise money, the next day you run out of the money because it's never enough. Even when you're going to fundraise, sometimes you go with a certain request, it's usually slashed to a half or even a quarter, but then you're like, you know what? It's better half plate or a quarter plate than nothing. And someone else says, you know what? I know that's crazy shit. You need to build. You need to concentrate on the strategies, product development, customer development, and you don't need to worry about where the next coin is going to come. So if you are watching this, I hope in the next 2 years or 3 years of you growing your business, for me it has taken me 3-4 years to reach this level. You'll get people, investors are people, they are angels. People who will look at you and tell you the same thing. You don't need to worry where the next coin is going to come from. You need to concentrate your efforts at the growth, at the development. Because now that's where the growth happens. That's where this. But fundraising is one of the key topics which has not really been handled well in our country, that is in Kenya. But I'm happy that, sometimes we have found we get to share these crazy stories, how we have been able to fundraise, and even now. And I hope by the moment, possibly next year or in 2 years' time, once we also unlock our investment, you can see the kind of enterprise we'll be building, the kind of impact we want to create with our local communities, the job. Because now, once you grow that level, you go past you. If you see some of the videos I've made in the past, those are not marketing gimmicks. For a very long times, I used to do some of the works before I could afford to hire people to do it. But for you to scale, as a founder, you now need to go beyond the production. You need to handle other things. But we need funding. We need funds. And most of you entrepreneurs or anyone watching this can realize that. So for you to get funding, in case you're wondering, I hope you've learned something. And of course, in the future, we can always talk more about how you are able to go about. I think I should be able to do a session, because it's almost getting late. I should do a session on pitching. How do you go to pitch to investors? How do you go a bit of background, like back information to check out? And simply by doing that, how do you get ready? How do you raise your first 1,000? How do you raise your first 20,000? How do you raise your first 100,000? And how do you raise your first 1 million? Personally, I've done it, and I'm very grateful for the people who have believed in me. I've raised money, as we say, just as a summary. Bringing in partners, getting grants, selling a sizable equity, and now massive investment that we call angel investment. And in the future, I don't want to be just here. In the future, I feel we can build Afrifama to go even now to VC level. Because now, once you go past angel financing, the big question they will ask you is, how do you grow this product from what it is as an X to 10X? And a 10X is now whereby maybe you want to raise 1 million USD. Now that's crazy money, I know, guys. But if you look even in African tech space, some of the businesses have been able to raise it. So if those businesses are raising money, why can't your business raise money? I know why. It's because sometimes we don't do the bare minimum. So get started. Use the simplest way of fundraising. The same way I keep telling myself. I want us to build now Afrifama Group the way it is now for the next 2 years, 3 years. Then maybe in the 4 or 5 years, we go to the VCs. Maybe we can say we'll be the first company in agribusiness startup to raise our very first 1M USD. Why not? Because it's possible, but we'll need to grow the business fast, because fundraising is one thing. But now translating that to the business growth is another thing. So I hope, guys, that makes a lot of sense. This has been a very long live, more than I would have loved to go, but then I felt it makes sense. Not just going through what ILO has said, but from me as an entrepreneur. Before you raise money, remember, you need to raise money yourself first. Your first coin has to come from your pocket. Before even you go to look for those organizations, in the future, I would love to bring McKenna in this love. Did I say love? Interesting. I would love to bring McKenna in this live. She is an amazing person. She can tell you about We Do. We have other good gentlemen such as Mr. Simon Kiroi, another We Do consultant based in Germany. But now it's for enterprises raising less than 5,000 USD. It's there. They can tell you, they can answer the question. But for the rest, you need to start from the small scale. Bootstrap, once you've bootstrapped, graduate to partnership, graduated, then continue. If debt financing can allow, try it. And finally, if you build an amazing product, and of course there's luck in the way, I'd hope some days you also get an angel investors and build it, and in 10 years, do a VC round from venture capitalists, and of course, the goats of all fundraising, it's IPO, whereby you go for initial public offering. And those are some of the startups you want to build, because the more you grow, this is what happens. The more you are able to open so many opportunities within the ecosystem and in jobs creations, in movement in terms of economics, and ultimately, that's how we grow certain economy in a country. And as a founder, that's how you grow. So I don't know if you have any question. I'll have like 3 minutes to answer before I exit now. I've taken a lot of your time, which I shouldn't. See my eyes, they need some rest. Ask me your question. We are coming to an end. So in short, that's how you raise financing. And we've also finalized what we call business planning. I hope in the next week, we can now start handling various cases, on IYB. How do you grow, which we can come up and just discuss. And I promise you guys, it's going to be interesting. So if you have a question, please don't hesitate to ask me. We'll be here to answer it before I go. It's almost 6:18 EAT. That is East African time. No question. If you got a question, don't hesitate. Don't hesitate to ask, okay? I'll be happy to answer it. Trust me. So yeah, that is it. That's what it takes to fundraise. It's a crazy journey. You don't do it overnight. It takes a lot of years, and I mean it. A lot of belief, and also aligning your business to be okay. Because the farther you go, the more. And of course, those people who managed to join today, from Mr. Robert, also from the other gentleman into, I think, live music, as well as Zen's. Thanks so much, guys. I hope you've really learned a lot. It's funny when you hear founders have raised funding, or people are trying to grow businesses. That's what goes behind the scene. It's a lot of work, a lot of knocking for those doors, a lot of asking people to believe in your ideas. It's the craziest thing you can ever do as a person, but it happens because people before us have done it, and also Afrifama has done it. All right, I've got to go. I've got to go now, guys. Thank you so much. Until next time, possibly next week on Monday. See you maybe tomorrow. We can have. I'll try to edit that live. I mean, not live. I'll try to edit that long video on hatchery. So if this is what excites you, don't hesitate to subscribe and like. I rarely ask for that, but hey, Come on, after 2 hours of talking, I literally deserve that subscription. Don't you agree with me? Good evening, good night, wherever you're watching from. Bye bye.